welcome, everybody. This is
Hello.
Hello.
we kickoff, right? This is our kickoff day, and I am so thrilled to be here for several reasons. But I'm going to host these three gentlemen that are our global representatives for WikiTree's family reunion. And of course, being from Appalachia, we absolutely know what family reunions are about. It's about food. So I'm going to kick this off very quickly because, we haven't talked about food at all today.
Oh,
Not really food. So I'm going to ask each of you, when your family gets together for whatever big event, pick one, what is the food from your country, your area that must be on that table? And as we give everybody a chance in the studio to think about that, I'd love to see your answers also in the chat. So thank you, everybody, for joining us in the chat. And thanks to everybody who's watching us after the fact. Okay, so you're first.
Who's first?
Has to be on the table, Patty, for a family celebration.
I don't know. I'm not a good cook. I don't have a big family.
I was waiting for a Guinness or something like
Guinness,
that.
yeah.
Absolutely not.
No.
I spent 3 years living in America, and I'd be a very rich man if I had $1 for every time somebody said to me, "You're from Ireland and you don't drink." That's not possible.
What about corned beef?
Corned beef is not Irish. That's an American dish. Bacon and cabbage is an Irish dish.
Okay, Patty, you got to come up with something to make this less American here for your country.
What are our traditions? Brown soda bread, apple tarts.
Oh, those work.
We do turkey and lamb for Christmas dinners.
Yep, that works. That works. Greg, what about you?
So when we have big celebrations, we always have a turkey, like for Easter or Thanksgiving or Christmas. But since I'm going to be talking about Project Italy today, if we have a get together with my wife's side of the family, or if it's a special birthday or celebration for our family, we like the homemade lasagna. So my wife makes a great lasagna, and my mother-in-law, interesting, they have different recipes. My wife's is more beef or like ground beef based. Yeah. But she also adds ricotta in it and stuff. My mother-in-law always does add some boiled eggs and sliced boiled eggs in it as well. So like along with the beef and the stuff. So
she adds the eggs.
It adds eggs, which gives it a really neat flavor as well. So
that's very
lasagna of any type is wonderful.
That's
and having
great.
grown up on a farm where it was mostly meat and potatoes, lasagna is something we never actually had.
Really?
So, yeah. So I just
love it.
Eat it up.
And David, what about you?
So my family, all right, first off, my grandmother was Swedish, but she did not cook. So we don't have any Swedish. I wouldn't even know what a Swedish meal consists of. My father's family was English, but we're talking colonial England. So family recipes or colonial New England. The recipes have disappeared. We eat American food. So, we have Thanksgiving turkey, we have steak and potatoes, but I have a lot of German ancestry, and that too has kind of been lost. We don't, in fact, most of the family doesn't even know we're German, even though that's probably our largest percentage of DNA. So last year, for the first time ever, we decided as a family to celebrate Oktoberfest. And we made schnitzel with noodles.
Nice.
We didn't even know what schnitzel with noodles was, but we got a recipe and we made it, and it was delicious. And we said we need to do this every year. But then this year we forgot, and we realized on November 1st that we didn't do Oktoberfest. So we don't really have a tradition in place, but if we did, it would be our schnitzel with noodles. So maybe
just rename it Novemberfest and just do it then.
I'm going to surprise you guys and say that biscuits and gravy was not a thing that had to be on our table for dinner, for breakfast.
Really?
But a tomato gravy was ever biscuits was kind of my grandmother's thing, and she did. But for our holidays, and if you guys are from South in the U.S. or Appalachian, you will appreciate this. We had a combination of weird food. Who's had Jello salad with grapes and other weird things put in? Sometimes cheese, the Jello mold things. So those always had to be on the table.
Celery was weird, yeah.
It was just really good. And those cheese balls, with the nuts in them, the nuts covering them, those always had to be there as an appetite. These were grocery store items that you could buy someone inexpensive, but make your table look like it was fuller than it really was, probably. And we always had to have at least 4 or 5 pies. That was a big deal. Pies were the really big deal. And I see that a lot of people have given us a lot of different answers. And this is what's great about this question. I know we talk about food sometimes too much, but the reason why I ask is because food is cultural, right? That was my WikiTree presentation last year, how cultural food was. So we talk about things like tea. And when I say tea, a lot of people might think of England and Ireland and things like that. But we got to go all the way back to China. And then if I bring it all the way to Appalachia, then we're talking sweet tea. So how one ingredient can really go through different cultures and different things. And yeah, this is just the green Jello cottage cheese one.
Green Jello cottage cheese, yep.
And it was I can't believe you all love it.
It's always got to be green Jello too.
Green, yes.
I'm just like, no. So
I like the cranberry sauce answer because we have cranberry sauce every Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Nobody touches it because nobody can stand cranberry sauce. But we still serve it. And then at the end of the day, we throw it away.
I know. But we're keeping farmers in business.
Yeah.
I would say that probably most of you in the chat and us also, because Greg already mentioned it, most of our ancestors, way going back, were farmers. So this is a lot of our culture as well. And you ate what you could produce on the land.
Yeah,
that kind of made up your culture. So where your farm would be around the world, that's how you would eat, and that's how your flavors come about. So let's talk a little bit. This is today's the start of WikiTree week. I keep wanting to say day, but WikiTree week. And today is focused on connections. How many of you joined us early this morning for speed cousining? We're going to do a little bit of that as well here, where I'm going to give a list of notables, and we're going to see very, very quickly who has got the lowest connection to them. It can be related or connection. So hold on for that. But we really want to talk to these three that are here, the experts in here, because I really want to dig a little bit deeper on WikiTree being global, WikiTree being one tree, and the projects that you belong to and what those projects mean to you in your research. And as we talk about this, I'd love for everybody to also answer along in the chat as we go along. So let's go ahead and start talking about projects in general. I think there are so many different projects on WikiTree that are not country related, but we're going to focus just on the country related. And for me, joining a country project means I have mentors, because I don't know Italy and I don't know Ireland, for example. So if I join the project, you guys are mentors where I feel a safe place to ask questions, because how many of us have gone and asked questions way back in the day in other places, I won't mention them, and people kind of come at you a little bit, and say, that's my great grandfather, not yours, and things like that. But that's not WikiTree. WikiTree is comfortable, safe, in mentoring as we go around. So, Greg, let's start with you. You have the Italy project you wanted to mention today. And my question would be my first question would be for you, why that project? Why are you involved in it?
Why am I involved with that? Well, I do a lot of Italian research because my wife's parents both came from Italy. She's first generation Canadian, but both of her parents came from a little town in Calabria, called Belsito. And so, of course, I had to do their family tree and wanted to get farther and farther, as far back as possible. And so I've been doing some Italian research. And then when I joined WikiTree, I all of a sudden, instead of just asking my mother-in-law, what names and dates she could remember, all of a sudden there was, another world out there, and people who could help me further that research. So that was one of the things. That was my primary reason for doing that.
The one thing you didn't mention that is really cool, and I know that when I was at Roots earlier this year, WikiTree concentrated on projects, and they listed mostly the countries. They had these wonderful banners that listed the countries, and people would eyeball the country, and they would come talk to somebody in the booth, and they would say, Italy, what do you do for Italy? What does WikiTree do for Italy? And they were blown away when I said, you've got people that are known to research in Italy, and if you have a question, they can help you out. How much? Free. It's free.
Yeah.
You go on the WikiTree, and then they wouldn't talk. They were stunned that we had this free help. And it's interesting how many different countries that were listed and some that weren't, that people came and asked and they didn't understand. So the ending question for these people were, wait a second, if they're helping me and it's free, then that doesn't seem fair. And I said, but once you learn,
then you can help
others.
That's right.
So I think that's exactly what Greg does, because he's already immersed himself in these records, and you've created some apps based on some endogamy based of it.
That's exactly right. Yeah. In fact, after I started adding Italian records and got comfortable using there's a website called Antonati, which has it has many of the birth, marriage, death records from about 1809 up to 1910 for many regions, and they are adding more as it goes along. Luckily, the little town that my in-laws were from was the records were only, you had to drive to a family search center to get access to them. Because they weren't live. They have since gone live, but I was able to convince my local library, my local country library, to become a family search library.
That's fantastic.
So that I only had to do a 4-minute drive to get there instead of driving 45 minutes to get to the next largest city that had one. Because there are more and more cities and areas that can access that, I actually created an app that automatically did citations for that website. So that was before the Sorcerer app came out. So I did that, and the Italy project still uses that, because some of the stuff that's on there, they're in images, like some of the details are stuck in the images, so you still have to type some of it by hand, but it can pull some of it out. So
I was going to say that app was one of the very first that I've ever used on WikiTree. And I remember first bringing it up, and I'm like, whoa, lots of ink, lots of lines. But then once you started entering the information, it was like, this is so cool, because it'll give me that complete citation.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you ever would have created that if you hadn't dug real deep into the Italy project and your wife's Italy ancestors.
No, I wouldn't have. No. So it was good. So that's one way for me of giving back to the Italy project and people who had helped me. And there were other members of the project who helped set up categories for the little towns, because I think it was Isabella who did that for me, because there's basically 3 little towns that they came from. And I was just learning, of course, it was like a year and a half after joining, I finally realized, there's these things called categories. I've always ignored them because I was just focusing on trying to add some relatives and get connected. But then when I discovered what the categories are about, she helped me do that. So that's another thing that I learned because of being part of the Italy project. And
then that's where I really want people to understand that projects are really great. They're great communities, but they really are safe communities to ask questions. I know in our projects, the projects I'm in, there's never a dumb question. even if you're a newbie and it's been answered 15 million times, but you didn't know because you're a newbie. So still, there's never really a dumb question. So keep that in mind when you go into the Discord for your project and talk to them, or the Google group. And Patty, this leads us to a really good question for you as well. Same question I'm going to ask you, but Greg mentioned categories for cities and towns and villages. And the question really becomes, why are you part of the Ireland project? What has it done for you? And I'm going to pause you real quick to say that Greg mentioned categories for city and town. Beforehand, on, I believe it was a rock Zoom, I met Patty, and I said, I need help with the McMahons. And then we just laughed before we came live, where I was like, Patty, still need help with those McMahons. And what was your answer?
There's so many McMahons in Ireland. It's a very common surname. My own grandmother's stepmother was a McMahon.
So the beauty of categories is that if you've got a last name of McMahon, you might want to break them down into different regions, that if you have a one-name study, to try and find them. So, but Patty, why the Ireland project? Could it have anything to do with your being Irish?
I guess it does. Born in Ireland, lived in Ireland apart from 4 years all of my life. All my ancestors, as far back as I've been able to trace, have lived in Ireland. I was doing Irish genealogy for decades before I found WikiTree. So I guess I joined the Ireland project in the hope of contributing some of my accumulated knowledge, where newbies to genealogy who find WikiTree early in their genealogical journey will hopefully learn from the Ireland project. And we have a lot of categories in Ireland because there are tens of thousands of townlands in Ireland, each about a couple of 100 acres. And David Loring, who's one of the project leaders, has set up the infrastructure to make a category for every one of those townlands. I guess I'm not as diligent as I should be about adding those categories to every project every profile that I create or edit, but I should be.
It's tough. It's really tough. But that's where Ian Bacall's AutoBio kind of helps out as well with the WikiTree browser extension. Hold that thought, because Greg's going to be talking later in the week about WikiTree tools and tips and things like that. So hold that thought. But that does help us get people into different locations like the McMahons. If there are McMahons in many different cities within Ireland, that helps. But I will tell you that Patty has been excellent mentor and helper, giving back to WikiTree with Rock. You do a lot of work with the Rock challenges that we do every other month. So thank you for that as well.
Rock is random acts of WikiTree kindness.
Mm-hmm. And you really do that a lot. And I will mention too that I always say I can make almost everybody an Appalachian, right? So I will mention that I have knowledge of Patty's love of a special project that he has. So we did a Kentucky Derby challenge, and Patty helped us out with that as well, because Patty, you like the horses, right?
I like the horses. I was watching the Breeders' Cup last night. Billy Mullins from Ireland won the Breeders' Cup turf, worth $2 million to the winners. And he's probably now on a plane to Melbourne to try and win the Melbourne Cup yet again on Tuesday. He's never had a Breeders' Cup runner before. He runs the Melbourne Cup every year. He's never won it.
So you're right. So that's just another facet that you have, that you contribute to WikiTree, because you helped us out tremendously with jockeys and trainers and owners with the Kentucky Challenge. So that was great.
And there's an awful lot of Irish and European horsemen that I like to see on WikiTree.
Yes, they're on.
Need to be added.
And thank you, Ben, for showing up, because this gives me an opportunity to mention that later in the week there will be a pet parade Zoom.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah, so when you're pet, you're making this one too easy for me.
I know. Well, Finnegan didn't get the memo that we switched it to daylight standard time. So he's thinking it's 5:20. It's way past his supper time at 5 sharp. And he wants to go eat.
Oh, and he heard us talk about food. He heard lasagna.
Yeah.
That was it as well. Okay, and Mr. Randall, David. Now, David was talking about the global project, but can you tell us how the global project came about?
Yeah. So the global project, it's well. First off, the global project itself has been around a long time, in somewhat of a different format. It was originally intended as an umbrella project for any smaller project that didn't fit under a bigger project. So, in other words, you might have, say Quebec fits under Canada, Ohio fits under the United States, but then you have a project like some of the original ones, Remember the Children, First Responders, Died at Sea. Those are some of the projects that we oversee as global, because they're small projects, but they don't really fit on any other category. So anybody that doesn't have a parent project to oversee them goes to global. About 3 years ago now, for our 15th anniversary, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 years, but we came up with the idea of the global, would have got 15 Nations tour. And we picked 15 notable people from 15 different countries. And these were countries that what I refer to as genealogically obscure countries, because they may be big countries like India, China, but genealogically speaking, they don't get a lot of attention. And our job was to take a random country, take 15 notables, and figure out how to get them connected to the tree. And as a team, we were starting out with zero knowledge. We had no idea how to do Malaysian ancestry, how to do Kenyan or Argentinian or whatever. And we did that for a year. We did 15 countries. We did 15 notables. We averaged anywhere from 10 to 15 connections each time. There were two periods where we actually connected all 15. Almost all of them, we got at least 10. And that was just amazing because, again, we didn't know what we were doing. But in a 3-week period, each time we figured it out. And then they wanted me to do it a second year. But this was a 24-hour, because, WikiTree is 24 hours a day. It was a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365-day-a-year job. And I was tired at the end of the year. So we decided to do something more permanent rather than a 3-week tour. We created an extension of the global project and have begun creating individual projects for each of the countries that don't already have a project. We have about 45 countries right now that have active projects. They're not big projects. Some have one person, some have 5 people. But it's enough that we're getting communities going. And if nothing else, we've got references on those pages. So you might find a country that has nobody participating, but you'll find resources on the page. You'll find history on the page, information about the religions and languages, etc. So it's definitely a project that's still growing, but it's been real exciting to see what people do. But I, as the leader of the global project, don't do much at all with the individual countries. What I do is I seek coordinators for each of the countries. I put them in place, and then they do what they want with the country project. So each one of the country projects is going to run a bit differently. And again, it's really all depends on the motivation of the membership as to what countries get picked and what countries grow. And
well, also say with the global though, you kind of built space pages for.
Oh, and that's a key piece. So I think that my hypothesis was that there might be a lot of people out there who would love to have a project, would be willing to run a project, but don't know how to begin or what to do, and that's intimidating. So this is basically a turnkey project where you will be given a web page with all the information on it, and you're free then to adjust things, add things, take things away, but you'll be given a full page. It's actually 4 pages where we have notables prepared for you. We have language information. I'm trying to think what else is on there. Resources,
Notables.
links to various researches. So you'll be given all of that. And then again, it's up to you to do what you want with it. You can keep it, you can change it, you can do it as you wish, as either a coordinator or even just as a member. And again, most of these countries only have a handful of people. So ideally, you work together and you figure out what you want to do. Some of them really like to get into the notables, and they go adding notables and connecting them. Others are more interested in their own family trees, and so they're working on their personal histories. Some of our countries, like our Asian countries in particular, do a lot with the language. How do you add a Japanese family name to a WikiTree profile, because it doesn't fit in the boxes like Western style names? So they work on those kinds of topics. But we have, as I said, we have about 45 countries that have been that have leaders right now, but they're looking for members. And then we have, well, there's 200 countries in the world. I think we have close to 25 that are actually full projects. So they would be England, Germany, France. So when you add the 25 to 45, you're probably at about half the countries that still have are still in need of a leader and a team. But we just we just take it as it comes. As people email me and say, I'm interested in this country, I let them know if we've got something going or not. We have somebody who is right now starting the Russia project. We just, for some reason, I don't know what was in the air, but we got a whole bunch of people requesting African nations. I think we got Ghana, Kenya, Burkina Faso, the Ivory Coast. I forget what all, but we just opened up a bunch of African nations.
I think the more that we get out there with this global concept, and let's not sugarcoat this. So I think when WikiTree started, it started with a bunch of Americans, right? But we Americans are a young country in comparison, and we have to go somewhere to find our relatives. And a lot are going to Italy, Germany, Ireland, Scotland, and England, things like that. And I just want to point out, because David's mentioned it a couple of times, that we do have a language project that a lot of you might not have known about. Mm-hmm. And this language project, let me go ahead and bring it up.
That's under Global. So Global is the parent project, and language is one of our sub-projects.
So they are always, and I can tell you always, I don't even have to ask David, I know this, they're always looking for volunteers. Mm-hmm. So we keep that in mind. And the other thing that I want to mention about the language, there some languages you would think, oh, well, I don't maybe necessarily need a German because I can use ChatGPT or something like that. But there is old German language that even some Germans have a tendency to have challenge with. And some of our languages out there do have an older style that takes an expert pretty much to
and when we talk about membership in the language project, really all we're asking you to do is add your name to a list. And let's say you speak Italian and you're willing to help somebody with an Italian translation. We're not asking you necessarily to participate on any kind of regular basis. Just have your name on the list so that if somebody has an Italian document, they can email you and ask you for help. So if you're willing to help out with a translation in whatever language, we'll just add your name to the list, and that way people know to reach out to you. Otherwise, you've got this skill and talent, and there's people that could utilize it but have no idea to reach out to you. So it's just a way of connecting people that speak various languages with people that need help translating those languages.
And then, David, you got a compliment on your shirt. So I'm going to post the WikiTree store link. I believe this particular shirt logo is up there. If not, AON will get it up there soon.
Yeah, this one's a couple of years old, so I'm not sure if it's still up on the new store or not.
If not, and remember, she's adding things all the time. So if you have a Thon team that you're part of, that's sometimes related per region or per location. I know a lot of Thon logos are up there, and country logos for the mugs and things like that as we go through. Okay,
Sandy, I got two quick stories I want to tell regarding Global. First off, the reason I got hooked on WikiTree, I was one of those people that came to WikiTree, got overwhelmed, and left. And it wasn't until somebody invited me back. And in fact, I tried to create an account and it says, you already have an account. I'd forgotten I'd ever even been here. But I came on, I was looking for help with my German ancestry because I know nothing about German. I put a post on G2G like I was told. I said, I've got family from this little town outside of Munich. Can anybody help me? And that same day, I got a response from somebody who says, I live outside of Munich. I'll go down to the church and I'll look to see if I can find some records for you. And by the next day, I had 3 generations of baptismal records extending my family back to Germany. And I've been hooked on WikiTree ever since.
And this would have taken a plane ride and probably paying for
and even that, to get to that specific church. Yeah. I mean, that's, even to find, even if I found a professional genealogist, they'd have to be in that local area and be willing to make, I mean, it just never would have happened. So today, last week was our Nobel Prize theme, and I'm still working on it. So today I looked up Shimon Peres, who was a former prime minister of Israel. I know nothing about Jewish genealogy, Israeli genealogy. And in fact, his parents came from Poland. I know nothing about Polish genealogy. So I'm thinking, how do I get him connected? And I read this little article that says that he was a cousin of Lauren Bacall. I'm like, okay, well, there's a clue. So I read the article further. Well, it says that one day he met with Lauren Bacall just by chance. And she said, hey, did you know we're cousins? And he said, no, I didn't know that. How are we cousins? She said, I don't know, but my family tells me we're cousins. Then he says, I didn't believe her. And that was the end of the article. So are they cousins? Are they not cousins? So I went through, and there must be 50 articles on the internet that say they're cousins, but they don't know how. So nobody knows how they're connected. Now, he's from Poland. Her ancestors came from Poland, but they went to America. He's in Israel. So how would we even find this out? So I went and I traced her tree back to Poland, found out that they share a great-grandfather. When the war broke out, her family went to the United States. His family went to Israel and never knew anything else about each other. But I have a feeling, I haven't posted it yet, but I have a feeling by the time I get this posted on WikiTree, will be the only place that actually can show the connection between Lauren Bacall and Shimon Peres. But my point with that is, it has happened so many times, I find, with my global research. I start with some guy from Israel and Poland that I know nothing about. And next thing you know, I've got this full family tree up there. It happens time and time again. So don't be afraid to tackle some of these notables that come from bizarre places that you've never heard of. But all it takes is a son-in-law or a cousin or somebody that went to England or America or, whatever country, and everything else falls into place.
And this kind of leads into what we're going to talk about next is, what does global connection mean? And you kind of just explained it right there with the two that you were trying to connect. But I'm going to ask Greg and Patty the same question, and I'd love to know everybody's answers as well that are in chat. So the question really becomes for WikiTree, what does global connection mean? What is something you have personally learned by collaborating with WikiTreeers in other countries? And I'm going to start with you, Patty.
I suppose we go back to the random acts of WikiTree kindness challenge again. And in the last challenge, it's a quarterly challenge. It just opened for signups yesterday on G2G for the December roll. It runs 1 month and 3. So last time round, Greg, who's here, and Vicky, who sent her apologies, were 2 of the roll keys who were benefiting. And Vicky is in Chile in South America. It turns out that she has 2 lines of Irish ancestry, and I was able to find we had cousins in common in Ireland.
Wow.
And her other Irish cousins included a famous Irish writer, Samuel Beckett, and his Chilean cousins are famous Chilean writers. So it's a very small world.
And
then in my own...
let me interrupt before you switch off from Rock. I'm just going to post a link that because it was just posted that they are looking for nominees. Also, from that same post, you can be a rocker, which means you're volunteering like Patty to help out others. And what they need, I believe it's if you have two CC7 connections of 7 degrees, 2,000 or less, you can be nominated. And I mentioned that because during the speed cousin this morning, we have 2 people that we nominated because they have under 500 CC7. Oh, yeah. So we were able to do that. It's a random drawing, so 5 are picked every time that there's, as Patty mentioned, quarterly. And go ahead and check that out if you want to help researching and creating profiles. That's a big deal too. Creating the profile so we can get further and further and connected as we go along. Okay, I'm sorry, Patty, for interrupting. Go ahead.
I was going to talk about the global connections in my own family. David mentioned Israel and Poland. I have 2 first cousins who live in London. Their parents were both from Ireland. They both married wives from Poland. One of them has a mother-in-law who was adopted in Poland at the end of the Second World War, raised by a Catholic family. And in recent years, she's now in her early 80s, has begun to wonder about her birth family and discovered that she was Jewish and that she was rescued from the Holocaust as a small child. And her parents ended up in the concentration camps. They both escaped. One went to Australia, one went to South America, each thinking the other had died in a concentration camp. They both remarried. So the one who went to Australia, I think, has a stepchild. The one who went to South America had a second child, a half-sister of my first cousin, half-brother of my first cousin's mother-in-law. He ended up back in Israel. They had no idea that each other existed until the last few months when one of my cousins in London got together and accelerated the research. And he found the half-brother now living in Israel and the half-sister still living in Poland. And we had to smuggle a DNA kit to Israel because even though My Heritage is headquartered in Israel, they're not allowed to sell their own DNA kits in Israel. And
really?
Came back to prove that they're half-siblings and they have met in Poland in the last couple of months. So even though I'm here in Ireland, I'm less than 7 degrees away from people who survived the Holocaust. And 80-year-olds who've met their half-siblings for the first time in the last few months.
All so, because you smuggled.
I tried to get them on WikiTree, but they weren't biting.
Oh. Well, there's still time. They still might. Hey, Greg, how about you? What does the global connection mean? What have you, personally learned collaborating with WikiTreeers in another country, not your own? And I know a lot of your stories, so I love them.
Well, that's good. Yeah. So the global connections, I've benefited from them in a number of ways. Well, one of them with our own Patty right here during the rocking for that happened in August. So we were both Rockies. Yeah.
Rockers.
Rocky, yeah. So and we each sort of Patty did research on my paternal line, the Douglas line that I'm descended from, and he actually went. He had to physically go and to the archives, and they wouldn't even let you take pictures. Right, you had to manually write notes in your notebook of the records that you found.
Well, on my laptop.
On your laptop. Okay, so you were able to type them, but still, you weren't able to photograph them or anything like that, which was much quicker. But
this is amazing because this is somebody who took time out of their day to do a kindness, a random act of kindness. So that's very cool.
It was great. Yeah. So he has found actual sources for the William Douglas that came. Well, actually, the William Douglas who passed away in Ireland before the rest of the family came over to Canada.
Wow.
And birth records for all of the kids who came over. So I actually now have actual dates for all of the children, as opposed to like 3 or 4 different dates, varying, by 10 or 12 years from the one census to another. So that's kind of nice. And also a number of
the children, Greg. There were a couple missing from the register.
And there were missing kids.
I don't know whether they lived in another parish for a while or what happened.
Oh wow.
That's right. Yeah, but you actually filled in a few names that I didn't even know about. So, at least one sister that had passed away young, and so he added a lot to the to my.
And the moral is, don't assume that every record has been digitized or put online, because there are still paper records out there that
they're still there.
Go visit the archive to see.
And there's things like I mentioned earlier, family Bibles that most people never digitize. But once you get cousin bait through WikiTree, a lot of times they will go, oh, let me look at the family Bible, or they might have photos and things. I'm gonna normally as a moderator, I don't share my own story.
Okay.
But I feel that there's one project that I really got to call out, and then there's one WikiTree I really got to call out. So some of you might know Eric Stamper with the Nordic Project, and he's also in Appalachia in 1776. But my husband's line, we don't know Swedish. I don't understand their records. They're very confusing to me, and it's just he wants to know genealogy, but he doesn't want to put in the work, so I don't put in the work for him. So that's kind of weird. So Eric Stanford, I was talking to him one day in Discord, and the next thing I know, the next day, he has built out my husband's Swedish line to 5 generations and found out details because of their household records that we never knew. So that was really, really impressive. And a big shout out to him, because he does it for anybody in Norway. And I need to mention him because he's one of the few, I think, on WikiTree that will do Finnish records.
Oh.
It's very difficult to do Finnish records, and he's one of the few that does it. And I got to give a shout out, because everybody probably has in your family history a bizarro story, right? Mine is that during the American Revolution, one of my my paternal line came over in a barrel on a ship. His brother was a Hessian soldier, came over, and this my ancestor, my great grandfather, stayed in the barrel the whole darn time of the ship. Well, okay, I'm suspicious, right? So we're like, I don't think so. So I kind of mentioned it during a research party, and hold that thought, because I'm going to talk about research parties in 5 seconds. There's just 20. So the Germany project took it and attacked it. They had multiple members of attack this, and I didn't know it. I just kind of mentioned it, and they went and researched it, and they proved it was probably bogus. They disconnected a huge family line. My CC7 went, down, because it was just bogus. It was one of those things when you go to the other genealogy site that people click leaves, and they just keep clicking leaves and leaves and leaves. And as Patty said, a lot of things were not digitized, and there was no proof, and there's no proof of relationship. And they had that he left because his father was so mean and abusive, didn't want to have anything to do with his father. Well, what do you know? 10 years later, the father's living next door on the shared farm. So something's not right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, the Germany project went and attacked it, and then an Appalachian came in with DNA knowledge, and we spent 2 weeks, like hours and hours overnight attacking it. And I'm not German, I'm French. End of story. And I need to smuggle some tests like Patty did to try and find out. But I would have never have been able to do the Swedish, and I would have never been able to do this German research they dug in to disprove. So sometimes it's not proving things. Sometimes it's disproving things that makes a difference. And again, they were out of the kindness of their heart. This was free. So yeah, I really appreciate that.
And you made a really good point that I want to kind of double down on. There have been a couple times, and it's primarily when I've jumped in on the Appalachia conversations, and I'll just mention something in passing. I remember you mentioned Eric, who's helped me with my Swedish roots, and the reason he did that was because I came back from Roots Tech and said that I went to the library and was working on my Swedish roots, and period, ended it, the conversation there. And then Eric pops up and says, well, would you like me to help you out further? And next thing you know, I got 2 more generations added on. And you did that with my Shaker roots as well, where I just happened to mention in conversation that one of my ancestors was a Shaker. not asking for help, but somebody that Sandy connected me to says, "Oh, I know all about Shaker ancestry," and was able to help me break down some brick walls.
And
So,
that's Eric. I will tell you what's
was
funny
that
about
also Eric? I thought that might have been, but the point is that I wasn't asking for help. I just happened to make a comment, and I got help. But you're not going to get that help if you don't participate, and if you don't join the projects and you don't join in the chats. Nobody's going to know what you're working on. Nobody's going to know what your questions are,
in chat,
and you're not going to get those answers. So, even if even if you don't have specific questions, just jumping in on the chats like here on the live chat now, you happen to mention, oh, I've got Belgian ancestry, and somebody else says, oh, so do I, and now you got a connection. So,
and definitely come to the Zoom. I'll post the link in a minute. Come to the Zoom later on tonight. It's the World Tour, and that's a good place to say, hey, anybody researching this location in Ireland or this location in Scotland, wherever it may be, and you never know who's there. And if they don't answer you tonight, they might answer you as well, because there's a Discord channel to ask that question. And speaking of this, let's do some. Oh, go ahead, Greg.
Well, I was just going to say, like you gave a shout out to Eric, and I'd like to give a shout out to Vicky Blanco.
Yeah.
Because on one of my, so I was at one point, so once I got as far back as I could with the Douglas family, this is before Patty gave me more leaves to check. I wanted to go forward and do, descendants research and get as far down as I could. And so I found this one line where there was only a couple kids, and one of them married someone in the States, and I couldn't find the actual marriage record. And then there was just one little article that said they left to go to Argentina to do some missionary work.
Wow.
And I thought, really?
We never thought.
And then I found, like there was an ancestry tree that had the list of some names, just names, but no details. And then I found, I was able to find one document that one of the kids had come back or had died. So anyways, I mentioned it once on a live cast, and then I talked to Vicky afterwards, and I said, well, I'd love to know what happened. So I've got a nice detailed profile for the Douglas woman who became Esther, who married this Krieger, Georg Franz Krieger, who was born in Germany, and he and his father both came over to America, and so she was born in Canada, he was born in Germany, came over to America. They got married in New York, Lewiston, New York, apparently.
But you have a lot of locations there.
There's a lot of locations. That's global in itself. And then they decided to do missionary work, not in America, Canada, or Germany, but down in Argentina. I'm thinking, why Argentina? And the interesting thing is the headquarters of the missionary group that sent them was in Toronto.
So if you think about this, if you back in the day, before this internet explosion happened, you had to buy tickets, and we've all seen in TV shows where they fly the celebrity from this country. Now you got to this country. Now you get. This would have been a world tour for you.
This was a world tour. So then I said, so I've got all this nice information about the beginning of their lives, and they got married, and then they had kids, but I didn't have any official records of any of that. So I just asked her, being in Chile, do you have any inside information on Argentina or Argentinian records? Yeah. I know, I mean, that's very, like grouping all the South American countries, Spanish countries together, it's maybe.
And, an interesting tidbit about Argentina that we learned on the 15 Nations tour.
Yeah.
They don't have indigenous people there. Everybody from Argentina is descended from somewhere else in the world. All
including Germany and Canada,
South Americans, Germans and stuff. And they have a huge interest in genealogy. There are Argentina genealogy websites out there. And when we did, that was the first country that we did with the 15 Nations where people from Argentina actually got involved. People that were in Argentina got involved and helped us out with the record depositories they have there. But apparently it's a big a big deal. But they use different. They don't use family search and ancestry like we do. They have their own websites.
And that's a beauty, because Vicky could go in and find out some information for you, where normally we'd be like, let's just go online. Let's just go find it.
So the bottom line is she discovered. So not only did they moved to Argentina. All of their kids, there was 5 or 6 of them, were all born in San Nicolas de Reyes, outside of Buenos Aires, and most of them just ended up they stayed and lived there. One son tragically died in a car accident in 1944, I think it is. But this one, she sent me a link which included a television program celebrating her 100th birthday.
Wow.
And she herself, she was a teacher, and she did work with young kids and missionary work. So she continued on the family tradition. She passed away at the age of 102. So
lots of Irish people also went to Argentina.
Yeah.
So we're almost at the end of our show, and I want to go ahead and do a little quick speed cousining with everybody. So then I'm going to bring up, David, you have come up with a list, right, from every continent, I believe?
So it's 7 individuals, 1 notable person from each country. They're pretty big names. But the idea behind this was not to go through them one by one, but to just see, as we've been talking about, how closely are you related to these individuals from every corner of the world. The one that I will explain, we have an individual from Finland who is not representing Europe, but he is representing Antarctica.
Okay.
And discoverers of Antarctica.
Cool.
So as you bring up, if everybody will bring us up, we're going to tell you how we're connected, who are our top, if we have 2 top ancestors, we're going to tell you that. We'd love to know what you guys also, the top 2 that you're connected. While you're doing that, I'm going to make Patty double task real quick. He's going to do that, and he's going to tell us about something about Ireland that's important for us to know.
And can we say real quick, if they don't know, that when you get to that category page, you click on the My Connections?
Yeah.
And you don't have to go to each page. Just click on the My Connections and it'll show you.
Let me bring it up. We go to My Connections right here on the page.
Perfect.
And then, Patty, what do we need to know? Something is...
We are getting very excited in Ireland because we lost a lot of our 19th century census returns for various reasons, including a fire during the Irish Civil War. So we were left with just the 1901 and 1911 census. And they've been available for research since 1961, 50 years after the last one was taken. So we have not had the release of an Irish census for 65 years.
Can you imagine?
In 1921, there was no census because the War of Independence was raging. So the first census in the new Irish Free State was in April 1926. There was subsequently a 100-year closure rule brought in. So that 100 years is up on the 18th of April 2026. And the National Archives will be releasing the 1926 census.
So everybody in Ireland will stop on that day and go to the National Archives, because you guys are...
The websites will crash.
The websites will crash.
So here is the announcement, which I will put in the chat. If I can go to the public chat, and you can all read the link on the National Archives.
That would be fantastic. And give us the date again. April?
The 18th of April.
18th of April next year.
Very exciting.
I agree with Joku. I only have I have 5 that I show, and I don't show all of them.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that Elvis is my closest. What about you guys? Who is your closest?
So mine looks almost exactly like yours, except I don't have Gandhi on mine. But I am, where did it go? Yeah, I am 29 degrees from Presley, 32 degrees from Queen Victoria, 19 degrees from the Queen of Hawaii, and 23 degrees from Evita Peron. So almost mirrors yours. But somehow you got Gandhi in there and I didn't.
Yeah, I don't have Gandhi either. For me, Queen Elizabeth is, or that's No,
Queen
Queen
Victoria.
Victoria. Queen Victoria. Queen Victoria is closer than Elvis to me. She's 37 compared to 48.
Ooh,
I need to get more Appalachians in my tree.
you do. What about you, Patty?
I am a distant cousin of Queen Victoria, 38 degrees, and of Elvis Presley, 39 degrees. And I am connected to the Queen of Hawaii and Gandhi and Perrin, with no sign
we
of Muslim or Tutu.
Okay.
There we go.
So how did you guys get connected to Gandhi and David and I are not?
I'm going to assume through marriage. That's what
I was going to say, it must be through your spouses or something.
Yeah, and if it is, it's this is okay. This is through my brother's first ex-wife's. You never know how global and wacky this is. So this is really cool. And if I decided that I didn't like her and said, no, I'm not going to have her, then this wouldn't have worked out well for me.
I am connected to Candy's great-grandchild's spouse.
Oh.
So what's intriguing though, Sandy, can you go to your Elvis or anybody else that has Elvis and see who the common ancestor is? Because I have a feeling, since we don't share common ancestors, that we share common ancestors with Elvis, but not the same common ancestors.
So I share 130 common ancestors with Elvis.
Wow.
The top one is Mathilde Brabant de Chantilly.
So I go through his mother. And her mother.
I go through his dad, Vernon.
Okay, but you don't share a common ancestor.
Oh.
I share a common ancestor through Elvis's father.
I'm doing this.
See, I share. Catherine Burns is our common ancestor, who I've never heard of. So I got to figure out who she is in my tree.
So if I go through the common ancestor for a direct bloodline to the king of music himself, Elvis Presley, it's still through multiple lines of his maternal.
But see, you've got Hampton. So do I. We have shared Hamptons in there.
And this is really great. If you guys are looking at an ancestor, this isn't notable, but let's pretend like this is one of your ancestors. And you see a common name and you go click on it and you see a particular WikiTree person is the PM. That is somebody who could possibly help you. And I've said this earlier today, and I'll mention it again during the heirloom hour. So the place that I'm sitting is a 120-year-old bungalow that I inherited a lot of antiques and heirlooms from. And I want to know where they're from because they're a little weird. And because I did this exact same search and contacted the PM, she was able to tell me that one of the granddaughters owns an orchard around the corner from us. So I was able to go talk to her. So that's kind of just some of the wacky stuff that you can do that is so helpful having a global community. And sometimes your community's smaller. So really quick, guys, because we're running low, since I mentioned the smaller, can you tell me what one thing really quickly is your work on WikiTree globally made your world smaller? So great.
One thing that made my world smaller. Well, I was going to use the example that Vicky helped me flesh out the Argentinian side, and all of a sudden, I've got cousins in South America. So now I've got cousins in at least 3 different continents.
That's come through. And Patty, how about you? It was something to do with the McMahons?
I don't think so. I like to make the world smaller by connecting the Irish notables. Fergal Hennigan does a great job of making profiles for notables, and then I like to try and see, can I connect them to the tree?
And that does that, and that helps with when we're doing the feature connections every week, and we get the Irish as well, and some connected through the Irish. That helps. And David?
So I work with my local genealogical society, and we have about 75 members. And we created a homepage or a free space page on WikiTree. And we're trying to get everybody to sign up. We haven't got everybody on there yet, but we've got several. And we created a category. So we're all in the category just like we just looked at. Nice. And we can now push on a button and see how we're all connected to each other.
Connected.
And it's amazing how many people I was sitting in the same room with for 3 years who are researching the exact same family that I am, and we had no idea because we just came from similar ancestors, or if not the same family, at least the same region or country or whatever.
And that's the power of categories on WikiTree. There's them as well. I'm going to tell you that, you know, as you know, Appalachians, I'm not going to go through the whole joke, but we do have lots of relatives nearby, family names and things like that. But until I joined WikiTree, I had never, and I've been doing genealogy 20 years, I've never met somebody who has matched me on more than 2 lines. You know, if you look at your grandparents' lines, never more than 2 lines. And because my 2 lines are very, very distinct. And on WikiTree, somebody joined Appalachia, and I call her Cousin Mary. She connects with me very closely on all 4 of my grandparent lines. And it's amazing. We never knew each other. And this is a West Virginia family lines, and she happens to live an hour away from me in South Carolina. And never would have met.
You never know. Yeah.
If it wasn't for WikiTree, and she joined a project. And I don't know what you guys do, but I highly encourage you, when new members join your project, the very first thing we do in Appalachia is we type out their WikiTree ID, and we all see who's closest to them, because we might have things we can share, or they might have brick walls that can help. So thank you, gentlemen. I joked earlier, this is Sandy and the Dudes. I appreciate you guys for being here to talk about global in the family reunion that's on WikiTree. And we mentioned all this help today. This was out of the kindness of fellow WikiTreeers' hearts to come and help. And don't forget, Rock is coming up. Definitely go to GGG and talk and nominate your Rock person. You must be alive. Can't be a dead ancestor. Must be alive. And your CC7 must be less than 2,000. And if you guys join up as a rocker, you will see all of us probably helping out. And if you need nominated, if you follow this pattern of under 2,000 CC7, you need nominated, go into your project if you have one and ask somebody to nominate you. Unless you feel comfortable nominating yourself. I don't know if we've ever had that. If we've ever
Some people
Did they have last month yet?
Patty, was that you?
No. John Tyner nominated me.
Nice.
John Davis last month nominated herself, but then somebody came in the comments and said, "I nominate Joan, and she's not allowed."
That's so sweet. Okay, so nominate yourself. Definitely nominate yourself. One of us will go in and do that.
Yeah.
In just 2 hours, there's going to be a Zoom. At the top of GGG is a list of events for today with the link. Go to Zoom. It's the World Tour. You'll see David there, and they're going to be talking about how to get globally connected. There are research parties this Saturday for Italy, Germany, westward ho. So if you have anybody going, immigrated to the United States or migrated to the West during Gold Rush, Jewish roots, U.S. Black history. That's always a popular one because those are really hard to research. They're going to be there as well. David's bringing the global project, many countries, small countries as well in there. So definitely check out the research parties. They will be going on all day, one after the other. On Saturday, and Greg will be hosting a chill in chat Zoom on Saturday. Don't want to miss that.
They'll be chilling and chatting.
Thanks for joining us, guys. See you next time.
Thanks for hosting, Sandy. You did a great job.